And so we're on a serious note again, which is good because today, Mental Health Minute, and this is going to go into kind of what Wombat shirt is. It took me a minute to figure out what to talk about. The unit I'm with, we just had an incident, and in general, anytime there's a loss of life or something like that, when somebody takes their life, especially, you sit there and you try to figure it out, right? How did we get to this point? What happened? Did they ever try to reach out? We try to Monday morning quarterback. And my simple message to everyone here that I've said as an addendum to a couple other mental health minutes, but don't make a temporary problem permanent. And by that, I mean anything that you're going through can be solved. Anything that you're going through does not have to be, you don't have to be alone, and you're not alone. There are resources out in the community, 988, there's law enforcement agencies, we're all trained in mental health first aid. And when you're going through something, don't fight it alone. There are veterans outreach programs, Wombat, you're going to talk about Wake for Warriors here in a second, but, Battle Scar Motorsports I've worked with, they use adrenaline therapy to try to help people through stuff. Luna and I are going through therapy canine training right now, comfort canine, crisis response canine training. There are ways that we as humans try to band together and make things better for each other. And the only way we know that you need help is that you reach out. Or if we're good wingmen, we sit there and we pay attention. And when we see something that's different, we ask questions. And sometimes you're not going to answer, but that's okay. Just know that we're here and we're going to listen, because being alone is the worst feeling in the world, especially when you're going through something, but you don't have to be. You don't have to fight alone, because especially in the military and law enforcement and first aid, first responders, whatever, there are avenues, and you have wingman teammates or whatever. And just in general, we don't fight alone. When we go out and we do tactics, we go out as 2-ship, 4-ship, whatever. When we, law enforcement, 2 is 1 is none. That mentality, it's not always possible, but it is something we try to. It's policy in a lot of places. So by the way we structure our training and our policies, techniques, tactics, procedures, we fight together. We fight as a unit. We fight as one, but it's one, out of many. We're one. We're all together, and that's kind of what we were talking about with 9/11, where we all kind of banded together. So if you're going through something, don't fight it alone. Try to bring somebody else into that fight to help you, and don't feel like you're alone on an island. And there are ways to do that with veteran outreach organizations, 988, et cetera. So Wombat, I'm going to turn this over to you, because I know you got a lot to say about
it. Yeah, I agree. And it's, even something as simple as, you think military pilot who's gone to the airlines, I've been in my airline for almost a decade now, and we've lost people that have decided to take their own life because they didn't make the transition well. And, and the average American probably look at them and be like, they don't have any problems. So one of the things I do in teaching is I spend some time with these new pilots, if I know they have a military background, to let them know that there's resources out there, because not everybody transitions out of the military well. But with Wake for Warriors, that's something that I can't thank them enough for letting me get involved and becoming a part of it. And it's something that, when I first heard about it, I'm like, oh, this sounds like a pretty sweet boondoggle. Like, I get to go and hang out on a really expensive wakeboard boat, and they're going to show me how to wakeboard and wake surf. And I've never done that. And then it morphed into, well, I'm going to show other people how to do that. And then I realized that a lot of the people that I'm working with don't have all their limbs, or can't walk anymore because of injuries in war, military. They're blind. It's the things that they overcome put your whole life into perspective, like in a second, because you look at these warriors and they're out there just trying to be around their buddies. You know, they're just part of something again. And it's almost like you can give them a superpower of like, hey, we're all back, whatever you did, you know, whatever it is, right? You were a pilot, you were EOD, you were whatever your specialty was, you're back in that unit, just hanging out, being one of the guys or girls and learning a skill set, you know, kind of similar to what you're talking about, Mover, with the race cars and stuff like that, and working on the cars and things. Like, I mean, you know, Dave Deep is the founder, phenomenal guy, Marine veteran. I mean, just the most stand-up guy I've ever met. And he put together this organization. And I mean, that's the whole premise, is basically is getting people together for a day out in the water to get away from whatever it is that they're dealing with. And it was really cool, and it was selfish at first because I wanted to be able to show my son at the time, and now both son and daughter, the sacrifices these men and women have made for our country. But then I started listening to their stories, and it just, I mean, they're amazing what they have been through and what they look at today as not even a factor. I mean, things that I think would debilitate me. I mean, I'd be on the ground if I had to deal with even a fraction of what they are. Doesn't even faze them. Oh, you can't walk? No problem. We got a surfboard for that. And they're back there surfing. Can't see? Not a problem, because you could feel the water. I mean, things like this that you're like, wow, like I don't even, you try to put yourself in that position, and I just don't know what I would do. So it's been a real blessing. But where it really hit home is I happened to be in an event a few years ago. And while I'm at the event, we're on one of the boats. And, you know, it's a fun day. We're out there. We try to have a good time. You get to know everybody's story, right? What's their background? Where are they from? I mean, every one of these individuals is just a phenomenal American who, as Mover, as you put, you know, was willing to write that check. And while none of them paid the full check price, every one of them, something was cashed, right? And so we're out there, and I'll never forget it. We're about to go back out, you know, after lunch, and I'm loading up the boat. I'm making sure it's fueled up. And I get a text from a buddy, and he's like, did you see? And your brain's not there, right? I mean, you're thinking these guys, it's all about, and I'm like, see what, bro? I'm out the lake, and I shot a picture, right? And he's like, so-and-so is the one that flew it in the T-45 on the low level. And it was a buddy of ours. And now immediately I go from this role of coach and driver and, you know, trying to build everybody up, and I got nothing. And I'm sitting there. I'm literally sitting on the edge of the dock. I've got my head in my hands. I just lost a friend, and there's a whole backstory to the loss, which makes it even harder. And I hear this noise, and I start getting like something's touching my arm, but I'm so focused. And it's one of the warriors, and he's blind, and his service dog is coming up to me trying to get my attention, right, and sniffing my arm. And I was like, oh, hey, sorry, you know, I'm trying to, again, you put on that face. This dude's blind. And he goes, I could tell something's up. The way my dog's acting, something's up. He's like, I'm here. He sits down next to me. He's like, tell me what's going on. And to transform that, I'll never forget it. I mean, it was unbelievable that somebody in his position could immediately sense it, especially through the dog, and was there. It was that sense of camaraderie. And I haven't found it, and I've tried to find other, and I'm not knocking any other veterans organization, nothing like that. That is not my intent here. I have never found that with any of the other ones I've been involved in, where it's so personal. And it's, I mean, no kidding, when I tell you, if you donate $1 is going directly to 100% of $1 is going directly to these warriors. And I think that is such a cool thing. It's sponsored by Nautique Boats. That company is fantastic. They donate one boat every year to this organization. I've seen the email where the founder or the owner of Nautique says he doesn't care if he loses money every year to support these warriors. I mean, these ain't cheap boats, man. Like, they can hold the candle to that Mustang GT, whatever that price. I mean, these are not, and oh, by the way, they're not cheap to run. And it's the money that funnels in to get these warriors from all over the country to these events to be around, it is just the most humbling thing in the world. And it goes to what you're saying, Mover, is there's always somebody, but sometimes you can't find that somebody. It's hard, right? You're in a situation where you feel alone. You feel like there's nobody else out there for you. Nobody else could possibly understand what you happen to be going through at this moment. But in reality, everybody does. Like, everybody's going through something. And I've said that before, and there's varying levels, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you feel like yours is nothing and somebody else is more. It's a lot to you. And that's where I think the military, in my opinion, does a crap job of us when they're done with us. They don't care. They're done with you. I heard a song once where, no kidding, they said, it was like a voiceover, and it was like, the best thing you can do after you get out is just die as quick as you can, because they don't care anymore, which is why we have to care. And that's why I think it's so important that we look out for each other, and we send the text messages and the buddy checks, and we make sure, because nobody else is looking out for us. I mean, organizations like Wake for Warriors and the other ones are, but you've got to find them. And it's our job. That's the mission now, right? I'm not going to go hop in a Hornet. It's not going to happen, right? I'm retired. Well, it may get that bad, but hopefully it doesn't get that bad.
But anyone who can fly a plane would be useful.
Okay, good. I can fly. I'm pilot.
Dave gave me a guy on my boat, right? He's a big guy. I mean, he's a big dude. Marine, very Marine-like. Had a lot of mental health issues from just the trauma of what he's been through. Not to get into the story too much, but Dave tells me, he goes, man, if he snaps on you, he goes, you treat him like a Marine, because he knows how to be talked to like that, right? You treat him like a Marine, you're very pointed with him, and he will come back. And I'm like, he goes, you think you can handle him? I go, I've never met the guy. I'm like, maybe, and we're out on the boat. It was the last day of the event. It's Sunday morning. It's a half day. We're trying to get as many people in the water, right? Because everybody's going to go fly home. And he stands up, and I see his demeanor change. It just snaps. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking at this boat, and I'm not trying to make light of these people, but there's like 4 people on the boat. There's me. There's this guy who trumps me in size. And I've got a guy who has no legs and a guy with 1 arm. And I was like, okay, this is not, I've got to figure out how to handle this, right? If something snaps, and I know that was a possibility, and he looks at me, he goes, shut the boat off. I said, okay, shut the boat off. And he stares at me, and he goes, this right here, and people like you are the reason I'm happy I didn't kill myself. And then he did a somersault into the water, and there was not a dry eye on that boat. Like, I sat there and was just like, dude, you can't do that to me right now, man. Like, I'm trying to, but I mean, and that happens every time, and you see it. And that's why, to me, the big organizations, the big things that are funded, good for them. I'm happy with the work they're doing. A small organization like this, I'm behind it 100%. And I'm going down there in 2 days, and I'm going to spend 4 days with these guys, working with the EOD warriors, which is going to be very humbling, because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of visible scarring with that group in particular, right? And it's something I wish I could get everybody to see their mission and to see what they do and to affect that change, because I guarantee you they'd have all the money they need to do this. And it's such a powerful thing.
So as a Christian, I do read the Bible, and there's a lot of good stuff in the Bible about not flying alone. I mean, there's a lot in Proverbs, whoever walks with the wise will become wise. But a companion of fools will suffer harm. So whatever you're doing, like if you're suffering mentally, seek out these groups like Wake for Warriors, because you want to be around people who are feeding you the right, the right words, right? The right thoughts. Or, if you're working on a project at school, surround yourself with people who know what they're doing, right? Or for work. It's all about putting the right team together. And flying fighters, you want to have, if you're doing your 4-ship check ride and you can handpick your guys, you're going to pick your, the people who are most capable, right? So you should do that in life. So, I mean, Wombat gave a couple awesome stories about how, when you're surrounded by the right people, amazing things can happen. And that's just, you don't have to be a a veteran to experience that in life. So that's all I got, Mover.
Yeah, surround yourself with people that inspire and influence and make you better.
Yep.
Like you boys.
A little better.
Yeah.
A little taller, a little
still
better.
taller than you. I'm just going to throw that out there one more time. Yeah.
Douglas.
No, that's
about-
great. Douglas, yes, of course. Hopefully his microphone's working. Or
No, you
didn't
guys
fall
nail
asleep
it. That's, I mean, just like always, everything I thought of while you were talking, somebody else said it just a few minutes later. You really covered it. Positive social pressure. If somebody tells you not to get help or don't get help, don't listen to them. Go find somebody who will listen.
There's no shame in getting help. Like it's so funny. I forgot where I even heard this, but you wouldn't make fun of somebody if they hurt their knee and went to a doctor. You wouldn't make fun of somebody or think poorly of somebody if they, got a concussion and went to a doctor. But yet, what's inside the brain, so we go concussion, okay, where it's fine. But hey, some things aren't jiving mentally, and it's all of a sudden this big stigma. We don't trust people. We think now there's something wrong with them. They're less than. And I would argue that you are more than. If you get help, you are stronger than you know. You are stronger because you were vulnerable. You were stronger because you identified a threat and you attacked it. Because the worst are the ones that ignore it, or they let it build up and then they do something irreversible, whether it's to themselves or to somebody else, to somebody they love. So I would just say there's no shame in getting help. And help comes in many forms. It can be professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, but it can also be the bros, Wake for Warriors, the fellowship. It can be a lot of different things. So don't think that there's only one way to fix it, and don't think that you have to do it one certain way, because everybody's different. But the thing is, just make sure you get help. That's all. Talk to somebody.